All right. Y'all ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. So welcome to Trip Overview Volume 1. Thank you so much for watching, viewing, subscribing. If you're not subscribed yet, what are you doing? I'm here with Barrett, Miguel, half of the Bali crew, I guess you could say. And we're here to just go over a little bit of an overview of the trip, how it was, what we liked, what we didn't like, expectations, and much, much more. So y'all are probably wondering, what is going to be in this podcast? What is it going to be about? You know, how often are we going to be doing this? What are the goals of this? So one of the goals for me is I want to provide you all with as much information on these trips so you all can be educated on the places we're going. Because a lot of these places aren't just like your average state in America that everybody knows about or has lived in, like Los Angeles. You know, we're going to places all around the world. So goal is to provide you all with information on these trips so you almost have an idea of what you can expect before we even get in there, or before you even get in there. But another goal is also to provide a platform for us to communicate. So as a group, whoever these teams are going on these trips, to just open up the doors and show you all more of what we're doing, but you all to also ask questions and get a little bit more of an idea, personalized to what you're trying to figure out about these things. So like you all can ask us questions, like we just put some stuff on our Instagram stories yesterday, asking you all, hey, we're doing a podcast tomorrow. What are some questions you have about Bali? We'll answer them in this podcast. So that was like the first step, but eventually I'd like to make these live streams so you all can literally tune in, ask questions live, and we'll answer them live. So it'll be a little bit less set up like it is today and more just free flowing, but it's a start. So like I said, got the guys here. You kind of have an idea of my goals. Miguel, what are you trying to get out of this thing?
I enjoy traveling quite a bit, so I think what makes sense for me right now in my life is to travel as much as I can while I can and produce amazing stuff to see visually. I'm a type of person that I like making something out of nothing, so traveling, seeing amazing places, hanging out with amazing people, and just creating amazing videos, taking great photos, and then I'm on this journey now figuring out how I can leverage this and make money out of it, which is I think it's a perfect position for people who want to see somebody grow like this, because I'm so new and I'm so blissfully ignorant that it's all new and I'm figuring it out, and like it's a perfect place to like offer something back to for anybody. I have so many people in my life that are like, I would love to travel. How do you do it? And I'm like, I'm figuring that out. So when it's all said and done, I think it'd be amazing to look back and say, like, here are some steps that I took. Here are the things that I would avoid, and like package that up and make it look awesome.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest questions, and we'll dig into it deeper. But like, how can we afford this? Mm-hmm. You know, like it is expensive to travel around the world, but there's ways around it to do it cheap. You know, like you don't have to be super wealthy to do all this, you know, but some of the stuff we are doing does cost a little bit of money, but we're doing it to invest in our future, which I'll get into later. But totally agreeing with Miguel. It's definitely a topic that a lot of people are interested in. And there's so much BS out there. Not going to lie. Everybody that's trying to sell you the idea of traveling full time for $100 a month, like something dumb like that, you know, like you can stay in a hostel for $1 a night in Southeast Asia. We're going to break that for you all, show you all what is reasonable, what you can really think about paying whenever you're traveling to these countries, because we were actually shocked. I actually thought it was going to be cheaper than it actually was. This ways around it once again, but we'll get into that. Anyways, Barrett, goals for this podcast. What do you want it to be?
Yeah, kind of going back off of what Miguel was talking about. We all love travel. We all love to experience new culture, meet new people along the way. So one of my goals in doing so is to visit these places that have always been on, you know, I've seen on my Instagram, or I've seen just these other people do it. And I love to travel. I love to meet people. And so connecting along the way, one of my favorite things, we'll dive into this, was just to learn about the culture and just experience what the locals, you know, do growing up. And a lot of those people have never left. So just know the religion, the culture, But my goal is to, like everyone else, just to do this and also find a way to monetize that and make money while doing that. Because it's something that we see so many people do, but we also want to do it in a unique way that provides value. And like Brad said, we don't want to BS. We don't want to kind of just cover things up. We want to be real and honest and tell our story along the way and just bring other people along on this amazing adventure we're about to, continue to go on.
Yeah. So I want to say this real quick. So Miguel is a creator. I'm a business guy with creative as a hobby. Barrett is just now getting into creative stuff. So like he didn't even own a camera until yesterday. So just to let you all know, you don't have to be super creative or be an excellent photographer or videographer to kind of do what we're doing. You just got to find the right people that are good at what you're not and then make it work. So that was just something I wanted to say real quick is because we're not all creators. I'm like, that's not even my full-time thing. Like I'm a business guy at heart. I've always been in business since I've been doing anything related to work or a job.
However,
but I just implement creativity in it.
However, we did have one big similarity on this trip is we all quit our jobs like at the same time.
Yeah. So like we'll just go into that then. All right. So like I didn't really quit my job. I've always been an entrepreneur. I've been in the fashion industry, ran an apparel line. Then I got into basically social media marketing work for companies, running accounts and whatever. Loved it. Nothing wrong with that at all. I worked with some awesome people, great partnerships. I just had another opportunity come up by a company to basically do what we're doing now, just travel. They were going to pay for me to travel, do a lot of cool things. And it was just an opportunity you can't pass up. So long story short, ended up leaving that to go do traveling. And this thing that ended up being what they were going to have, this company, I can't say what it was, but they were going to pay me to travel. That ended up being a lot less work than I thought I was going to be up front. So now I basically said, well, let me just do all this travel stuff myself and use my skills and knowledge I already have for social media, applied it, and was able to get brand deals and a few other sponsorships and get some money and capital to get this off the ground and just do all this personal branding stuff and what you are watching right now pretty quickly, because that was in March-ish that I was done with the previous company, which was Loud Lux, and now jumping into this. And I've been on 3 trips. Miguel's been on 2 and Barrett's been on 1 with me. And we're about to leave for Europe for an entire month in like just over 3 weeks. So we're progressing quickly, but that's my background. So like, I guess you could call it quitting a job. I guess you could call it just changing it up a little bit. So instead of working with a team and people in Louisville, I'm now just doing travel related content and personal branding work for myself with other guys. So more of a collective rather than a business. That was my job.
Yep.
Miguel quit.
Yeah.
He actually quit a job.
Yeah, I actually quit. 2 of them. But video has always been my side hustle. And then I started getting recognition and realizing I'm getting better. And then the more I knew, the more I realized I didn't know. And I just continued to kind of just work at it. And then, eventually, because of social media, you get in front of the right people. You start working with different people and your network starts growing. And eventually led me here, really. I always knew that I wanted to quit my jobs and try this out because really you only have one life to live. And it was kind of like that. I listened to a Joe Rogan podcast the other day that said like a man has 2 lives. I can't remember the interview, what the guy's name was, Naval, whatever. The man has 2 lives. He's like, his second life begins when he realizes he only has one. And I thought that was huge because like I was in a cubicle for so long, over 6 years. I mean, even before that was just my last job. I've been living this corporate life, and I realized that like I have something to offer and something to show, and I just wanted to actually give it a chance. And life forced me to show my hand, and I took the jump, and I've never been happier. So,
yeah, I mean, I knew Miguel wasn't happy when I first. So, funny story. I met Miguel, slid in his DMs on Instagram because I was watching like the Louisville story on Instagram, and I was just like already in this creative mindset. I wanted to look for creatives. Saw him, he popped up, so I instantly hit him up. Ended up linking once, it went well. We talked for like 3 hours, whatever, but didn't really like, nothing came out of it. And we weren't trying to get anything, just wanted to meet. And then the Planet's Best came up, which is another collective, awesome group of guys, me, Keone, Miguel, and Nathan, who's now in Colorado. What's up, Nathan?
What's up?
We went on this trip together, created content. It was awesome. But then right after that trip, we all got really busy. Nathan ended up moving to Colorado from New York. So we just haven't been able to follow through with that yet. But I just like heard on that trip, so we were with each other for a week on a road trip. I heard a lot from Miguel just like saying how unhappy he was at his job, but he had this talent that was so good that I knew he could succeed in it because I was in an entrepreneurial space. So I had seen creatives and other people with a talent do incredible things in this world, like ridiculous things. And he had a talent that was worth doing that. But like this quote that always stuck out is like, a lot of people said, I think Gary Vee said it once, but it's like, if you live for the weekends and vacation, like your shit's broken. And like, that is exactly what Miguel was. Like he was living for that trip because he was away from work creating, but his shit was broken at work. So like he had to fix that somehow. So anyways, took him a while to get out of it, but now he's finally here. But like, you can see that stuff going on in people's lives before they even know it. And like similar stuff with Barrett. Barrett will tell you a little bit about his story now, but it's so hard to make that jump. And it was a little bit easier for me, but I know Miguel struggled with it a lot because you're literally leaving a paycheck. And if you've never worked for yourself, it's such a scary thing to do if you don't hop right into it from the start. So now that he's here and we're starting to figure it out, like having a group of people around you that are going to support you 24/7 and are all have the same mindset to grow is the only way you're going to get through it. You're not going to get through it if the people around you don't really give a crap about anything, or they're not trying to grow, or they're just trying to get a job, get a paycheck, whatever. That's fine if they want to do that. But if you're trying to grow as an entrepreneur, like self-made, it's not going to happen that way. You can't surround yourself with people like that. So find a group like us where we're all kind of in the same boat, trying to figure it out, kind of do stuff on our own, be self-made entrepreneurs. You got to be surrounded by people that are trying to think bigger.
Proactively.
Yeah, and so for me, I quit my job right before we left to Bali. I put my 2 weeks in, but I worked at corporate finance, and that was something I thought I wanted to do my whole life. I studied in college, and I was just like, I was told you have to go this corporate route, kind of work your way up, and you know, if you're around the right people, maybe you can have your own book of business one day and, you know, manage their money. So that was the route I thought I wanted to go, kind of got into it, and was always contacting and connecting with Brad and kind of like seeing from afar what he was doing. And so I was actually envious of him, but I was just like, you know what, I don't know if I can ever do that. So I'm just going to, you know, stay at my job and then, you know, figure it out along the way. But around 8 months or 9 months in, I was just like, all right, like I have to, like, I'm sad. I'm living for the weekends, and it's just like, wasn't what I wanted to do. And I was like, there's another way. And I saw what Brad was doing, eventually met Miguel and saw what he was doing. And like Brad said, I literally just bought a camera yesterday. I'm just getting into this. So if you have that mindset of like, I'm not a creative, I don't have anything, how am I ever supposed to do this? Well, like hopefully my journey as I kind of get on and, you know, learn with these creatives here and learn the business, you know, that I will be able to provide that value to you. But like, you just have to do it. Like Brad was always saying, like, you just have to take a risk. And it was hard. Like I remember leaving a pretty good paycheck to start a new adventure, and it was scary. But, you know, I worked and I saved up money, so I wasn't just making a stupid financial decision. But yeah, so I'm here now, 2 weeks, you know, out of, you know, not having that secure paycheck, but loving life. I'm already happier. I'm more motivated, and I can't wait for what's to come.
Yeah. So like two of the things that I was motivating Barrett, like when we went on the Planet's Best trip to California in early December. And when we made it to LA, I actually met up with Barrett one night and talked to him because like I knew what his shoes were. I mean, I just knew like the situation he was in. He didn't like his job, whatever. I was motivating him to quit, but I had never been in his shoes. That's what I was trying to get at. I've never been in your shoes of, I've never had a secure paycheck. So me telling you to quit your job and get into this is it can help, but I couldn't see it from your perspective.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And also, I didn't want you to, so for example, I didn't want you to leave the dock before the boat has even got there.
Right.
So like, you don't want to hop ship before you have something figured out or know what you want to do. Like, you don't want to just leave your job and say, oh, I'll figure out what I want to do later. It doesn't work. That's where you get into trouble because then you're just going to be spinning in circles. Then you're going to get stressed and be like, well, shit, I have no money.
Yeah.
I think
I don't know what I want to do.
Right. I think the biggest thing was what people don't see is kind of like how you get into it. Like other creatives, other people I talk to, what you see on social, what you see and talk to is one thing, but you don't really see how they got there. And like for me, it was working a corporate job. It was, saving money, leaving a secure job, but taking that risk so that I can actually do this. It's not, just getting into it with no money or, making a stupid financial decision or, buying a course for $100, being like, now you can travel the world. But like you have to be able to, take the initial risk, but also be wise. And that was the hardest thing because Brad was like, wasn't in my shoes, but also he was really just seeing how much I just wanted to be a part of this journey. And so for me, the hardest part was, leaving that secure paycheck, but knowing that there was so much more out there. And I was so much like happier, willing to risk that. And so I'm so glad we contacted and we connected and he finally encouraged me. Once he said Bali, I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm in.
Because you were waiting, weren't you? You were like, okay, I'm going to quit in April. I'm going to quit early May. And I was like, yo, we're going to Bali.
Yeah. You actually encouraged me to stay.
I know. I said, stay through Bali because I knew if he had because if he would have quit early May, he would have had a month of sitting doing nothing until we left for Bali and he'd be anxious. I just know he would be. So I was like, yo, you got to work through Bali. And then as soon as you get to Bali, that can be like your reward. Turned out he gets to Bali. And here's another thing is Barrett wasn't even thinking creative. Like a year ago, were you even thinking about buying a camera? No. You were never thinking like, oh, I want to do photo. I want to do video. I want to do something like that. Until he was surrounded by it. And then it kind of unveiled the covers to him of, oh shoot, I think I actually want to do this. I want to try this out. And that's me, dude. I get that shit every day. I'll see a new video. I'll see somebody doing this and be like, that's interesting. Let me try it. And I try it. I'm like, dude, this is it. I want to do this. And then I'll go full speed at it for 6 months and I'll realize, oh wait, this isn't it. I'm going to try something new. But that's okay. That's what life's all about, dude. You don't do the same thing your entire life unless you really love it. I can try stuff right now. I'm not set on anything. So that's why I'm tasting in a bunch of different areas between food, between traveling, between business. I'm just kind of dipping my toes in the water, seeing what I really like, and then going really hard for 6 months to a year on something, see what comes out of it. And then if it's still rolling, it's going well, then I'll double down on it. Right now, I'm just kind of, doing a bunch of different stuff, and that's fine. You got to figure it out. It's not just going to come to you immediately. And if it does, then good for you, but that's not what happens to me. But anyways, enough of that. Let's move into Bali stuff. So this trip, first off, guys, this was probably one of the best trips of my life. I've been lucky enough to travel with my family a whole lot growing up. Completely blessed for that. In incredible locations. But going to a spot I've never been, I know nothing about the culture, and I don't have the security of my parents renting me a massive house and everything set up for you was not nerve-wracking, but you just got to accept the unknown of these locations and try to adapt to it. That was so fun for me because I'd never done that before. And I ended up loving it once I got the hang of it and we got over that jet lag because our flight was we had 36 hours of travel time there. So it was rough. But once we adapt to it, I loved it. So that was one of my favorite trips of all time. And just the crew we were surrounded by with Miguel, Barrett, Jenny, and the people we met. We met this dude named Chad Nutter who Miguel knew, who I'll talk about later, but just another cool dude. We met a lot of locals that ended up just being awesome. Our villa host, Rodney, which I'll talk about later, how important he was. It was just an incredible trip. A lot of stuff unveiled to us as well about what we want to create. So Bali was it was priceless for me as far as these journeys. And that's why I want to encourage everybody to travel and try new stuff because you do not know what's going to happen during these trips that are going to make you excel later down the road. It's boosts. It unveils new things. You see more about yourself. It's incredible. So Bali was one of my favorite trips I've ever been on.
Yep.
I'll let you get in a little bit more about the details of the trip. what you really liked. Tell me what you thought of Bali. Your initial reactions when you got there, what you had beforehand.
Yeah, so
leaving.
I've been to Southeast Asia before. I've traveled Thailand and the Philippines in the past. To me, Bali was, and I think we all agreed on this, Bali was way more developed than I was giving it credit.
100%.
So we stayed in Seminyak. Seminyak was very put together.
Dude, I literally thought Bali was going to be like a jungle.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be developed. And that's why I wanted to get there sooner than later. That was why it was one of the first trips we went on.
Yeah.
But I did not think they would have hip restaurants on every corner.
Dude, their food was literally 10 out of 10
Fire.
everywhere you went.
So
everywhere.
It was gas, dude. It was so good.
So like the thing, okay, so they have Gojek, which we all can agree is probably the best thing ever. Gojek is an app that it's kind of like Uber Eats here in the States. So, but it's faster, it's cheaper. And these guys just like, you place your order at the restaurant. These guys on mopeds go pick it up. They deliver your food. You pay them, whatever. And the app is it's cool. It's intuitive, but they have way more than just Gojek. They have Go Food. They had Go Massage.
Spa,
Yeah. They got little guys on scooter that you can literally say, go home. And it's like, they'll come home and fix your house, fix your sink. So you can like go sink, and the plumber will come over and just
anything,
he'll ride
really.
up on his bike, has his like little suitcase in the back, whatever, or his toolkit, and he'll come over and just like fix your sink. Yeah. It's like go sink.
It's super
everything.
cool. It was super cool to see that. But I think Bali, in Seminyak, it was way more developed than I even realized or considered. The other places we went to, Ubud, Canggu, Nusa Penida, those places weren't. You can tell they were still like 10, 15, 20 years behind schedule for where Seminyak was. But it was cool to see different places and see how far along they were. Because like not only just the people, but the development and how they even set the town up. Seminyak was awesome. I've recommended it to multiple people now. It's super close to everything you want and need. You can stay literally local in the town and have a time of your life. My voice just cracked. I loved it. In general, like I'd absolutely go back. I think we all agreed that we definitely wanted more time by the end of the trip.
Without a doubt. So we were there for 2 weeks. I thought 2
really
weeks
a week and a
was
half by the time we got there.
Yeah, by the time we got there and adjusted and slept off everything, it was probably about a week and a half because I'm not even kidding you. When you're on a plane for 36 hours, I landed in Bali. I smelt like a trash can.
We looked so bad.
I had not slept for longer than 2 hours off and on. And let's see, we left on like a Monday and we got there on a Wednesday. We left at Monday at 2 a.m. and we got there on Wednesday at midnight. So it was a long travel haul. So anyways, by the time you got there.
Do you remember Jenny's ankles?
Dude, my ankles too. Jenny's ankles were, Jenny's ankles were so swollen. My legs were so swollen that it's like, I didn't know what was wrong. I looked like I had a disease.
You can see the puffiness around her.
The line of it.
Looks like she just like rolled both of her ankles.
It literally looks like, broke ankles. But then like we slept, we woke up, we ate, we went to our new villa, and I think we went back to bed. I'm not even kidding you. So that was 2 days down. And then you're finally adjusted. So it takes some time. It's 12 hours difference than East Coast at least. Yep. So yeah, I would definitely recommend longer than 2 weeks if you're heading over there. Like I think we could actually hit everything in a month. That's how much time I think you would need there. And it's definitely reasonable to say that. Because first off, these excursions, which we will talk about, some of our favorite excursions, that was one of the questions you all asked me on Instagram. What up, Instagram fam? Anyways, you can find me on Instagram at @BradPierce_. If you're not following me already, I don't know what you're doing. But these excursions, they pack you on like 5 different places to go in one excursion. So it's like you show up and they push you down to these places for 30 minutes and then like, okay, time to go on to the next one. And we're like, yo, I just got my camera out of my bag, And it's not like you can tell them no because you're on these islands off of Bali. Some of them were on Bali, but like they can just like get up and leave you and you're screwed. There's no such thing as a taxi at some of these places. It's like they ride horses and they ride these little cars on these roads that what they call are not complete.
Rodney.
But they are not complete. Let me tell you, it's like rock roads, not gravel. It's literally rocks. So your car is shaking like crazy.
Oh, crazy. Just the
Like,
bumpiest ride ever.
Crazy. Like I was covering my head so we wouldn't headbutt each other because it's like playing Jello in the car.
And these are the more underdeveloped places that we're speaking about.
Yeah, like
So,
Nusa Penida.
Yeah. So like in Seminyak, it was developed. The roads were nice. There were scooters, taxis. It's walkable. Everything's there. In Nusa Penida, it was like they're just now figuring out how to build a road, and they're still building homes, and like it's like a couple houses, some chickens, and the rest is trees.
Yeah.
And then you're just
No restaurants.
oh man, the roads are so narrow, and it's crazy, but very bumpy.
It is. It's third world. It's like I would imagine this is what America would look like 300 years ago, and I'm not even kidding when I say that. Like I don't know what it looked like 300 years ago, but this is what I guess it would look like. But instead of America, it was like this beautiful tropical island. The people were awesome as well.
It's still gorgeous.
So yeah, I would recommend a month just so you can go to each one of these places just for one day instead of trying to squeeze like 5 in one. And then you have off days because you need off days because we were getting up at 5 a.m. to catch our ride to these places. You don't get back to like 6:30 and you ate one meal and you're exhausted. So like you can't do that every single day. So yeah, 1 month. And also I would recommend Seminyak. Like I'm so glad we stayed in Seminyak because for the first time going there, we were able to walk to everything, and it is the most developed, so you're not in the most shock when you get there. And like some people say, why would you be in shock at Bali? Y'all, we're from America. We're not from Asia or China or somewhere like that. We're from America. If you get a
We're pretty clueless at times.
Like, are you kidding me?
Very ignorant.
These moms get mad at people at Starbucks because their $6 coffee had too much foam. Like,
Yeah.
we're from America. That's why. But yeah, so like I would highly recommend everybody staying in Seminyak if it's your first time there because you can walk everywhere. It is a little bit Americanized, but you can find the spots that aren't. There's tons of hotels, tons of resorts, lots of people, lots of fun.
People speak English.
People speak English.
Well enough.
Tons of taxis. So that was another thing is you can get taxis there in and out easily to where other spots there are no taxis. And we chose to do taxi over scooter this time, but next time we're probably going to do scooter. So yeah, I recommend Seminyak, but it was cool. Like Miguel said, the other parts of Bali are all different. So like Canggu was the spot that I was debating between. Canggu is kind of like what Seminyak was 10 years ago. So Canggu is probably like 30-minute drive from Seminyak, something around there. So it's not far. It's just a little bit north, but it's like a cool little surfer town. There's still shops, still cool restaurants. It's just less commercialized. It's all local restaurants. It's not like you're not going to see a really dope Australian restaurant with tons of bling and what all over. But it's a cool surf town, a lot there, but the taxis aren't easy to come by. So like sometimes you have to wait 30 minutes for a cab. Like we waited multiple times when we were there, like trying to find a cab, and they just don't come over there. And same with Ubud. So like that's why I enjoyed Seminyak, and that's a big thing to know. Like we would have been, think about that. We would have been screwed if we didn't have that. Yeah. So there was like no cabs there. Like, could you imagine if we had to put all of our stuff and we rode on scooters, all of our stuff in a backpack and we rode on scooters separately everywhere? Speaking of scooters, what was your favorite experience in Bali? I know what mine was. Barrett's going to talk about this real quick.
So my favorite experience was, I think it was that first Friday we were there. And we made plans with like one of the local companies down there to go surfing. And so I've lived in California for 4 years now, but I don't surf quite often. One, because I don't have a board, and two, because the water's just cold as shit. But I knew I wanted to surf. I was like, I have to surf in Bali. It's a bucket list thing of mine, so let's do it. But it was that Friday evening. We were going for like a late surf sesh, and we walk out, and when I was like looking around for like a cab, or looking around for our driver, I look to my right, and I just see 4 Indonesian guys with scooters, and quickly realized like, oh, we're gonna be riding some scooters to the beach. But that and the surfing was like one of my favorite just my favorite experiences, because it felt for the first time like I was a local. This is how they all get around, and it was just a really neat experience to really just be a part of just the experience and the culture. And then we headed over. It was like 15 minutes or so on the back of scooter. Miguel had his big camera videoing. We were just racing, and then they go quick. They're in and out of like traffic on the sidewalk, like doing wheelies and stuff. It's crazy. But we get to the beach and we get our surfboards, and let me tell you, they'll speak on it more, but it was fantastic. The water was warm. There's no coral. The waves were, big. We didn't really surf them.
The GoPro didn't do it justice.
Yeah. But it was just the time of our lives. Like the sunset was coming down over the water. It was what I envisioned surfing in Bali would be like. And it was one of my favorite days of the entire trip.
Yeah, it was that moment when we just finished surfing, and it was a beautiful sunset. It was like 6 p.m. The sunset's early there, and we were getting back on the scooters and riding back, and we were like cool with all of our surf boys now, and they like raced us back, like we were like racing back. It was that moment where we all just like we're screaming in the phone like, damn, like this is what we want to do. Like this is that memory I just made there. Like I have a picture memory, so like I just remember this picture of us flying through this back alley along the coast, like Barrett's flying by me. Miguel's dude's like, he runs into the sidewalk. Like, it was just this moment of like, this is incredible. These are the memories I want to continue creating. And like, we've already done this, and this, like, I can now see why it's worth it. Like that memory alone was worth it. That's the shit that doesn't leave you guys. Like you don't just get that stuff from doing average stuff. You don't get those memories from doing average stuff. It's where you push into the zones of being uncomfortable. Like we were not comfortable getting all of our camera gear and all of our equipment onto the back of these mopeds with people we had no idea who they were. They just showed up at our villa.
Yeah.
But doing that was incredible. Yep. So speaking of camera gear, one of the biggest questions people have been asking us, what are we creating? What are we doing in Bali? We're not just vacationing. What are we doing there? So I think for all of us, it's a little bit different, and we are all trying to still figure it out. So like nothing is set in stone. But one of my biggest things is I just wanted to wake up every day, ask myself, what do you want to do? What do you want to create the rest of your life? Go do that. It's like that was one of the biggest questions I always try to ask myself. And being the fact that we're in a beautiful location, these travel videos are incredible. But remember, I have a background in business. I love business. So creating stuff that's business friendly, but also travel related. So it's kind of that business travel niche that's a little bit saturated right now. I knew I could break through it. So like my content that I'm going to be releasing is a little bit different than like Miguel's content, where it's more videography quality based. Mine's going to be more business related. Like how are we affording this? What are we doing to create this content? How am I making money while I'm traveling? Stuff like that. But then I also like more long form content. So we had this idea on the trip to create kind of this show, because after that moment, we were like, these are moments that we want to share with other people. These aren't just ones that we want to throw up on an Instagram story. Like we want to create a good film out of this. So we had an idea of this show that's like incredible. And the more we talked about it, my dad ended up writing a book on this, exactly the idea of it. So we're going to be doing a show based on that concept. We'll be talking about probably in the next couple months or so. And that'll be releasing sometime between March and May of 2020. But is this show that is basically on challenges and achieving challenges that we thought never could be possible, but we're making them possible at such a young age. So that's my content. And then also just like dope Bali photos, dope traveling content photos from my personal Instagram, and just, throwing in food in there because I'm big into food, cooking, stuff like that. I think it's a niche that's not really tapped into yet. So I'm going to be experimenting with that. Like I talked about earlier, guys, I don't have anything set in stone. I'm trying a bunch of different stuff. And then whatever I like in 6 months, I'm going to double down on that and then try a few different other things along with it. So like, that's my content. Miguel's a little bit different. He'll tell you a little bit about that.
Yeah. With mine, I think my goal for this whole travel experience is to get better at telling my narrative and my story and what I'm doing. So I'm going to focus that on my YouTube channel. And that's going to be kind of like what I already put out. So a full length, this is what we did. Here's my take on it. Put my own spin, my own voice, my own creativity involved, but I just to get better at that. And the only way I'm going to get better at it is if I keep doing it. So get my repetition with that. And then this time next year, look back and say, like, look how bad these videos I did were. Look how far I am now. This is so much better. So I'm huge on just progressing and feeling that energy, feeling that positivity of like, I know I'm getting better. Therefore, like, I'm happy. And then helping you with your show. So, and your social media. So that's one of the big reasons why I'm coming on these trips is to, like, one, have an amazing time with friends, provide the best value I can by sharing my skill set with you. And also I want a big picture because we're going to some amazing places. We're seeing things that some people genuinely never get to see. You know, it's one thing to go on social media and see photos and see videos, and like, it's very underwhelming when you're staring at it, but when you're there, it's a whole different story. It's like, do you have friends that are crazy enough to get on that flight and go to these places? And some people get the satisfaction by looking at it. Some people would rather go and see and experience it. So we already know we got that taken care of. Now it's how can we capitalize on these things and put something together. So within these next trips, I don't want to do just like, we're here, here's some cool pictures. There has to be substance. We have to tell something captivating and show that, and not just, because we've spoken about this. We don't want
a ton. Like, that's one of the biggest things we've been talking about is actually, like, why is creating something different so important? Because the market is so saturated in this travel industry. And for, like, to bring it back a little bit, I hit up Miguel and said, hey, I'm traveling. I'm doing personal branding now. I want you to come on these trips and create content for me. And that's the whole way this idea even started. So that started happening. Then I was like, yo, you need to do something for yourself as well. So he started creating his stuff as well. And as soon as he hopped out of this job, like, it is easy to create in your hometown, but when you're traveling, it makes it that much easier. So it is a good boost. Like, you can, great creators create well in their hometown or at home, but that's a challenge. And, like, why not take off as many challenges as possible when you're first getting started in something new? So traveling was a great help for him. But yeah, creating something different, why it's so important in a market that's so saturated like travel. He talked about is the narrative, the storytelling. How can we be different? How can we stand out? How can his content that's already so good quality wise stand out even more with the narrative behind the quality? Is just like a huge thing we're trying to figure out.
Yeah, not just going to these places, because I think all of us here are more focused on, what's the best way to put this? We're bucket list people. We live for the experiences and the interactions. So, like, some of yours is like, you want to climb mountains, you want to influence 100 people. It's things like that hold more weight than just going to some place and, like, taking a couple pictures and getting a couple cool slow motion shots of whatever's going on. When I'm traveling, one of my favorite things about our trip was meeting the surf dudes and surfing, meeting Rodney, our villa host, and, like, having those really in-depth, personable conversations with him and the stories that he told us. So now when I think of this trip, I think of you dudes, I think of the experiences, I think of Rodney, and that's what I bring value in, because that to me, his stories alone they're huge for the stuff I like to do. But also, there is that side of it. You have to realize we're going to these amazing places. There is a social media aspect of it where you just have to put the things out there to showcase. And it's just, it's back and forth with that. I try not to keep the two, like, together. I like my social media stuff over here, and then, like, the things I enjoy, I keep like,
makes
hold
sense
to me.
I get it. I think one of the biggest things for me is I'm such a big thinker that if you have ever been around me, like, I'll go from 1 to 10 real quick. I'll be like, yeah, let's like Miguel, for example, we'll be talking about a video idea, and I'll go straight from, let's just drive over to Indiana and let's shoot this, to let's just fly to LA tomorrow and just rent a helicopter and do this. And, like, I don't think about how can we make it happen. I think about the idea, and then we go, and then I'll make it happen. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've been able to do a lot of cool stuff. Like, dude, I was 10 years old, went to the X Games and got into the VIP. I'm not trying to brag. I got into the VIP with the parents in the meet and greet when I was 10 years old, just from negotiating with people there. I'm just like, I get so excited. That's what drives me, is trying to people telling me I can't do something and doing that, but I don't have a lot of haters, like, for real. Like, I just don't.
When
like,
Brad
I just
gets
hang around
excited,
people.
it's the funniest thing in the world.
I go crazy. I'll just like start shouting ideas, and then we'll go from like this idea, this idea, this idea. But I'm thinking so big that where I'm not worried about, oh, how can we afford it? I booked that shit, bro. I do it, and then we'll figure out how we can make it work. But like, if I had to try to figure out how we'd pay for something or how we'd try to make something work before like we booked it or followed through with it, like, we wouldn't have been on a trip yet.
Just like in Bali. Yeah. We all bought plane tickets before we knew where we were staying.
We figured out where we were staying about 4 days before we left.
And that's the excitement of it too, though.
But I love it. Like, Jenny was freaking out. Jenny's OCD. She's like, you booked a place yet? You booked a place yet? What the heck? Where's our place? I'm like, Jenny, I'm working on it, trying to negotiate some stuff. Ended up following through. Incredible trip. So yeah, creating something is different. Barrett might have, you have anything to talk on that?
Yeah, just I think to back off Brad and Miguel a little bit, kind of just, as you all know, new into this whole space in general. Like, a year ago, didn't know I wanted to do this. Now I've seen it, and I'm like, I want to get into it. I want that foundation, and once you kind of have that foundation, there's different avenues you can go. But kind of like Miguel was saying, I like to experience. I learn best by doing. And so if I want to learn a culture, if I want to, be able to learn something about someone, I need to go there. I need to talk with them, interview them, just hear their life story. And so what excites me and what I want to do and focus on is when I'm at these places, creating content, taking, photos, whatever, but also going beyond that and telling a story, informing people about the culture, like hearing the local story, like what he was saying with Rodney, who's actually a Dutch guy but's lived in Bali for 13 years, and his story, and the guys on the moped, the surfer bros, like their stories. That's what excites me, because we're all on a journey together. We don't have all this figured out. People come from different upbringings, backgrounds, but it's cool to unite that, and we all have something in common, which is adventure, travel. We want to experience new things while we can. We don't want to live our lives to retirement. We want to experience it now and find a way to do that now. And so that's what motivates and excites me, and that's what I'm trying to focus on as I get into this new creative space. And hopefully, as I do it and learn, like I can provide value of new people kind of wanting to get into that space, but don't really know where to start or know how.
Yeah, that's big. And just like not knowing how, we can move into that a little bit, like roadblocks like that we had along this trip. So let me lay out the trip for you. So we land in Bali on like a Wednesday. That first week is kind of chill, plan, try to figure out what we want to do. Then our itinerary picks up. This is when we start going on the excursions. So we did surfing on Friday. It's that following Monday. And we do our first excursion to Nusa Penida. I think we're picked up at 5 a.m. We get back around like 6 something. We are fried. Hell of a day. We saw King Kling Beach, which is just an unbelievable spot. You all have probably seen it all over our Instagrams. We've been posting about it. Just like wild experiences there, helping people that were in need, that couldn't get back up. This climb that was unreal, all the way into sunburnt shoulders that were blistered, just like painful stuff. So I think then the day after that, we were wrecked, and then we had the great idea to go out that night. I don't know whose idea that was.
I think it was Jenny's, yeah.
Not my idea. So we had this full day, whatever. Oh, let's go out, whatever.
She's like, guys, come on.
And then we were going to Ubud the next morning, another 5:30 a.m. wake-up call, which we ended up pushing back, by the way. One of the biggest roadblocks for me, so there's this thing called Bali Belly, and you get it from drinking the water in Bali. You cannot drink their water because it is contaminated with some kind of bacteria, and if you drink it or have food that has been washed by this water, you will get sick. And it's not fun. I woke up in the middle of the night with Bali Belly. And I didn't even drink a lot that night. I had a few drinks. Nothing like these guys did. Okay?
Yeah, bro.
I was not drunk. I was not hungover. I was not sick from drinking. I was sick from Bali Belly. I was vomiting everything that I put in my system for the next 24 to 48 hours. It was going out both ends. I was at a high fever. I was dehydrated. I did not eat a single thing that next day. I could not keep it down. I laid in bed all day. They slept majority of the day. And that put me out. Like, I was in a weird state where I didn't have any energy. I felt nauseous for like 3 days. And that put a damper on that last week because it was so go, go, go. So that was my biggest roadblock, was getting sick. And what we think ended up happening is we were in Nusa Penida that day before, like I was saying, and we had some rice, and the rice was steamed in water, and I ate that rice, and I got sick. So little things like that you have to watch out for.
Yep.
Roadblock, Miguel.
Man. What was the toughest thing that I had to deal with?
Besides us.
No, you guys are great. Honestly, like, I genuinely love traveling with you guys. You're very accommodating.
Yeah, I'd say we're pretty cool.
You're
Yeah,
I'd
agree.
agree. Yeah, pretty cool. I'm kind of important.
No, I think for me it came down to more so like the camera gear side of things. I didn't have any, like, I'm a pretty adaptable person. You put me in a situation, I'll figure out just how to be content with being there. I don't have anything that I'm like, you know, even with like, you said we're going surfing. I'm like, oh crap, I guess I'm going surfing.
Yeah.
I'm terrified, but I'll try it. Everything was fine. Like, I was kind of used to knowing like Southeast Asia was how I was going to feel. I luckily didn't get sick. I think once Brad got sick and then we went to that Mexicola motel, and the Australian guy, the dude who was like, he's like, look, man, he's like, look, mate, the water's bad, the money's worse. He's like, wash your hands. So we just came around like hand sanitizer everywhere.
He means like the people carrying this money are a lot of locals, and they drank the water. So the bacteria on the money, and then they get it to locals. Locals are handling the cash.
Yeah, all the
because
cash
you don't
is
use card there.
filthy.
That's what he means by
Yeah.
us getting sick. And
So
catching
maybe
bad
that
water.
was probably the biggest roadblock for me, is camera stuff, is, you know, carrying all that stuff and like doing my job, and then figuring out the financials, like paying for dinner every single time with you guys.
Oh my goodness.
Paying for dinner sucked.
Y'all felt dumb. Not even.
Yeah, I'm in finance, and I felt dumb. I was like, Barrett, their whole currency is weird, and we had to do all this math.
Barrett had been in finance for a year, and we just like get this bill at dinner, and we're like, yo, bro, what the hell we do? Because it's like $600,338, and we have a bunch of $100,000 bills there, which is like what, $8 something like that. So we're like, can you split this? And they're like, no, we don't split checks.
And they never want to split the checks for us.
So we're all just kind of Venmoing each other, kind of just throwing in hundreds. And another thing is the tipping is weird there. We still haven't figured it out, so we can't really help y'all on that. But we don't know if they tip. Like, we tipped whenever we went to nice places, but there's like this service charge that's included on a lot of the bills that says like service and tip. It says tip on there,
6%.
but it's like it's like 6% or something. It's a low amount. Like America, we tip 20%. Australia doesn't tip at all. So I don't know what the balance was. So we tipped sometimes on top of that. Sometimes we didn't. So we haven't really figured that one out yet.
But definitely financials, and the fact that, like, alcohol. I feel like when we did want to drink, alcohol literally cost as much, if not more, than our meals.
Yeah,
and
so
that's because of
it's what did the dude say? 600%.
600% alcohol tax on imports.
Yeah, so there was like
to give context, like a 6-pack of Coronas was like $80.
Yo, we went to this Mexican spot called Mexicola, which is an awesome place in Seminyak. They have like one beer there called Bintang. They do it locally, so it's cheap. It's like $1 or two.
Yeah.
Like a Corona was like $12 for a Corona in Southeast Asia.
Yeah,
you go to Mexico and it's 2 Coronas for $1.
Yep. But that was any roadblocks that I really had, and more or less the same.
Yeah, so roadblocks I had, I don't think I really had that many. Well, I guess when I first got there, so I flew out of California, that's where I live. They're from Kentucky, so I actually got there before they did. And I guess the first roadblock I had to come across was when I got out of the airport. I walk around this corner, and there's probably 200 to 300 Indonesian men and women holding up signs. They're all drivers, just for, you know, different people arriving there. And so I'm already just jet lagged, tired, didn't sleep much, and I'm trying to find my name, because there was a lot of them were names, some of them were hotels. And so I called in advance to the hotel just to arrange a driver to pick me up to bring me back to Nusa Dua, which is where we stayed the first night. And when I got like around the corner, I was looking for my name. No joke, 30, 40 minutes. I can't find my name. Like it was madness. There was so many people. And I was like, all right, let me try and look for the hotel, which we're staying at the Marriott Westin. And I was looking for that, couldn't find it. And eventually there's like kind of like a little call center. I talked to the lady. She said something in Indonesian. I had no idea what she said, but some guy came out of nowhere and was like looking for me. So I guess that was the first roadblock, just not really knowing whether it was my name. There's so many people, but about an hour after, I finally got back to my hotel, and then they met up with me later. But other than that, the finances are a little tricky. Highly recommend carrying cash. A lot of places don't take card, and so having cash is the best thing to do. And pulling money out of ATM, that was another thing. The ATMs don't always have money in them, and some of them you can pull out more money than others. And so I wasn't able to pull out large amounts of money at once, which you're saying like, why is that an issue? Well, you get charged a certain fee every time, international fees. And so I could only pull out like 80 to $100 at a time. And sometimes when I was trying to pull out money, we were going to dinner, and I didn't want to use a card, or if they didn't take card, and I'd go to like 3 ATMs, and 2 of them didn't have money, and one of them only allowed me to pull out like $70.
Yeah. They're rigged. They are rigged.
And also just like keep in mind too to be careful with some of that stuff, because we looked into that before we got there, realizing that sometimes people will genuinely rig the ATM to scan your cards.
Yeah, they'll put card readers on them, like in front of the card thing. So just like shake it.
So just double check, because if that were to happen, that would suck.
Yeah. So like those are some pretty broad questions for all of us, but then we each put on our story like questions that we've received from you all, or more questions. So let's move into a little bit of personal questions. I had a few that I'm going to talk on. I didn't have a whole lot. A lot of mine were kind of the same stuff that Miguel's going to go over. But one of the most asked questions was, where should I stay in Bali? And we said Seminyak if you're going first. I want to venture out a few different places, like I said. But one of the biggest things I was looking for was a villa host that was going to be somebody that could help us out a lot. So we got so lucky. Met this dude named Rodney, who's an awesome guy. We filmed an interview with him that we'll be releasing shortly after we post this video on my YouTube channel, so you'll be able to see it in like roughly a week or so. Anyways, Rodney helped us out with everything from picking us up to our previous hotel, to airport transportation, to scheduling our excursions, to the private chef doing an incredible dinner at our house, to any questions we had. Rodney was there to answer them. And not to mention, he was so cool just to be around, dude. This guy from the Netherlands who lived in Bali for 13 years. He knows the culture, but he also knows what to expect from Americans' point of view.
Yeah, he was a teacher. He's a student. He's studying for his PhD.
The dude's
he's a
genius.
lecturer.
Yeah. Does environmental stuff.
Environmental work.
He is involved. He's subtly flexed. He's involved with like every organization you can think of there.
He's a solid dude. Very happy to have met that guy.
Shout out to Rodney.
Shout out Rodney.
So where should you stay? I would say Seminyak if it's your first time going to Bali, and try to find, if you're going to do a villa instead of a hotel, which I would recommend, they're a little bit cheaper and better. I would try to find a villa host that is going to be there a lot. They're not just going to check you in and check you out, and that is going to be guiding you along the way in Bali, because you're going to need it if it's your first time there and you're there for a while. Next question was favorite excursion, because people talked about Nusa Penida, Ubud. We went to Omnia and Uluwatu and saw Martin Jensen, which was a lot of fun. We did a lot of cool stuff. I think my favorite excursion was King Kling Beach, just because I talked about this. It was my laptop screensaver when I was in middle school, and I had no idea what this place was. It was just like that beautiful spot that's like a set screensaver that nobody's been to. And then once Instagram influencers started picking up on it, I was like, dang, I want to go there. And then, a couple months ago, I realized it's an island just off of Bali. So we went there, and I was like, holy crap. I'd been staring at this thing in class in middle school for years and years. And the fact that I'm finally here is incredible. And it's like even if you've seen every picture that's edited out the butt of this place, it doesn't do it justice because it is so tall and it is so steep.
Yep.
And it is so hot that you are feeling everything through your body when you're looking at this place,
man.
okay?
Every bit of it.
And you're climbing down there, and it is over an hour climb down, and it is straight down. Bamboo very strong.
Bamboo.
It's literally held up by bamboo railings, like tied together. So it's sketchy. Then you get down to this beach, and it is a beautiful beach that is untouched, surrounded by this cove of rock and mountain. The water is crystal clear. The waves are massive.
So strong.
And the sand is a perfect color, and it is magical. It's literally what you think of when you think of a perfect beach on a random island in the middle of nowhere, because that's what it is.
To us, it was absolutely worth the climb going down.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. So if you go there, you need a full day. If you go to Nusa Penida, you need a full day at King Kling Beach. Nothing else. Don't let them take you to Broken Beach or all the other places. Do a full day there so you have time to climb down, take pictures, throw up the drone, relax, swim, whatever. Last one. Is Bali cheap as people say it is? This is what I thought. He had been to Thailand. Thailand's cheap.
Very cheap.
Bali, it can be cheap, but it was way more expensive than I thought it would be. We also pushed the limits a little bit. Like we went to Omnia, like I was saying, which is an Americanized nightclub. We went to some of the nicer restaurants. You know, we wanted to venture out a little bit. So if you were going the cheap route, you could stay in a hostel and you could do cheap food. And I'd say you could do $1,000 a month if you really pushed it.
Yeah.
I think you
so.
could.
Easy.
So that's cheap. But just know you won't be eating at the really good spots. You're probably eating at some sketchy food place that you might have to check the water with. You're staying in a hostel. You don't have a private room. Maybe some hostels do have private rooms. I would say around $1,000 a month. The way we were doing, I mean, $10,000 a month. I mean, Miguel probably more because Miguel would order. It was just so easy.
That's so much food.
Everything, like you could Gojek anything, and like we Gojek breakfast, it was like $4. Then we'd Gojek another breakfast because it was only $4.
Yeah, I think we would spend less money though if we went back because a lot of it was like, oh, we need to eat here. This place looks cool.
We wanted to try a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So like once we got that out of our system, we would spend a lot less there, and like we got a huge villa because we got it sponsored and paid for. So like if you went the route we did and you had to pay for everything and it wasn't paid for, it would have been really expensive because we stayed in a beautiful location, beautiful spot. So I would say roughly like $500 a week if you want a vacation there and enjoy yourself and eat comfortably and live comfortably. I mean, actually outside of stay, I would say $500 a week for excursions, and say you did 2 excursions and you wanted to eat and have some fun and maybe go out once or twice, I would say $500 for a week, which is still pretty cheap. So in the last point, would you visit again? 100%. It's so funny because we were already talking. We came across this guy, Chad Nutter, which we talked about, and he was saying like, hey, I'm going to live here for 2 months. He's ended up going to be doing that, I think, this fall. So it's still up in the air, but we were like, yo, I would totally move here for a little bit. It's like one of the biggest digital nomad communities. So a lot of internet entrepreneurs are going in and out of there nonstop. And there's actually really great Wi-Fi there. So there is a lot of business people and business going on there, a lot of development since it's growing so quickly. So I loved it. There are some dark parts about it, you know, but I think that it's just the people are wonderful. Their personalities are great. It was beautiful, dude. Like it was so beautiful. And the ability to create in that place is endless. That was another reason why I loved it. So yeah, I would totally visit again. I definitely want to go back there soon just to like create what we didn't get to create yet because we didn't have enough time, and like maybe even live there. I think you can live like 60 days without a visa there. So like I would love to go for 60 days. And stay there. So those were like my most asked questions. I had a few about a waterfall. We didn't have time to make it to some waterfalls. Camera gear. You already know my camera gear. Yeah, I know Miguel had questions as well. So Miguel's going to move into his.
So yes, I would absolutely want to go back. Absolutely agree. I think you can do what's funny. You're talking about the digital nomads, the people we ran into that we didn't have the chance to talk to. So we ran into Los LeBlanc at freaking, what's it, Omnia?
We were at Omnia nightclub seeing Martin Jensen, and I like look over, I was like, yo, is that Los LeBlanc dude?
Literally, I'm
on
the dance floor.
Oh yeah, that is. So we were going to go up and talk to him, But it was so loud, like he wouldn't have been able to hear anything. So we just whatever.
So we ran into him, literally just right next to me at the dance floor, and then we left and we ran into Jackson Groves.
Yeah,
the influencer.
Jackson Groves at the airport.
Yeah, so it's just like, it's funny just being there, who you run into. So you're bound eventually, if you keep doing this, to like start networking with people.
There are so many big influencers there that are making an impact, but the people that are making a difference, I all follow. And the fact that we ran into 2 of them in the short time we were there it's loaded, dude.
Yeah. It would have been interesting to see if we were there for longer, who else we would have run into, you know? So a couple questions, just like camera stuff that I got. I'm going to go through a couple of these real quick. Did carrying a bunch of gear and transitioning between camera lenses lessen the experience? I personally think, yeah. I try to be as minimal as possible. I feel like that goes for anybody with camera stuff. I definitely had in the past, I would carry too many things and have to think about it. It just takes you out of that creative moment. So I'm actually transitioning now to doing something to where I can just have 1 or 2 lenses, be on the go, be discreet, and do the job. I feel like you're much more efficient that way. Favorite or most used editing plugins. I edit in Adobe Premiere Pro and After Effects. I'm not plug-in heavy at all. I think it's overdone at this point in time, so I try to do everything in camera or just keep it minimal. You look at these Hollywood films and stuff, they're not doing these Luma fades and zoom transitions. Like, it's good. It's good composition, good lighting, and good storytelling. Picture profile you use, all the stuff that we shot, New York and this Bali film, it was shot on the Canon 1DX, and then I just used the natural picture profile setting. What I shoot the film with, Canon 1DX, the gear you used, and what picture profile and LUTs. I literally, dude, it's funny because like everything I do is so basic, man. Literally, it's a natural profile setting. Gear, just a full frame Canon.
Guys, it's not about the gear, it's about your skill set.
Yeah, it's a couple. I have a 24. I had a 24 millimeter lens, a 35 millimeter lens, and then a 70-200. I don't even have a drone. Like that was Brad's drone. I try to keep everything as minimal as possible. LUTs, I literally use whatever comes stock in Adobe Premiere. So like it has a couple of Fujinon picture profiles or LUTs built in, a couple Kodak ones. I just tweak those, and you don't even need a whole lot because the Canon looked good straight out of camera. How'd you get that flight in the villa, baby girl? I'll let you explain that.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things about this whole series is I'm covering majority of Miguel's expenses to create for me, and he was willing to travel because traveling's a lot, guys. Like, yeah, traveling's great, but it's also, if you're not trying to just create for yourself, it's work. Like, this dude works. We don't go on these trips just for fun. Like, it's working. Like, he's shooting stuff all day. He's editing, like, and then post-trip, he's in his room editing days and days and days at a time.
Yep.
So I'll talk more about how we get these villas, how we get these flights paid for and get paid to do them, and what we work on a little bit later. Not in this podcast. I'm actually going to be releasing some more stuff on my channel in mid to late July, right before we leave for Europe, about the business side of things, because that's what I'm doing. That is literally what I'm trying to figure out, and I haven't mastered it yet, and I don't think that I will master it because I think it can always be improved. But I know that just talking about it isn't going to get it done, so my actions of trying to progress in it, which I'm going to open up to you all, I'm not going to try to hide to you all, is what's going to make me better, and I'm going to continue to craft in it, and I'm going to share those with you all as well. But basically, we bartered content and exposure and marketing for Villa and flights, and then we also had a sponsor for the trip on top of that. So short story long, that's how it happened.
Yeah, and it's so funny because this is the first time, I'm so new to this. So we went to New York, made that video, and then Brad knows what he's doing with marketing. He ends up landing a deal that that he'll talk about that ends up helping us for this villa trip. And like when those start to happen, you start to realize the potential of what you're actually able to do. So it just stokes your fire even more.
Yeah.
So I know that with the Bali stuff, with the Europe stuff coming up, and the amount of snowball effect that's going to happen this time next year when we're like, the goal for this whole thing is to be self-sufficient, to get to make money, to travel the world, to bring your friends, to have an amazing time with amazing people.
Yeah.
And like, it's just the beginning, and we're already like on the right track. And that's the most exciting part about this whole thing.
Real quick, before he hops in the next question, we didn't wait until we got a deal to go on the first trip. I invested a lot of money into these trips up front so we could create content to present to people, to show what we can create before we ever got our first sponsorship. So it does. You need to work for this, guys. Don't wait until you get your first contract or your first clients willing to pay you to go do something to create. Like, you got to invest your own money to show you're even worth them investing your time in, you know? Like, it's not just going to happen like that. So if you wait for things, you're never going to get there. And if you do, it's going to be so slow to progress.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I worked my butt off for the past 3 years, so I was able to save money to invest in stuff like this.
And to know the best of both worlds. So if you are a content creator and you're good at that, you know that you're able to, because you know where I come from. I'm like, am I good enough to pitch these companies to travel the world? And you guys are like, yeah, all you need is the knowledge and know-how. Yeah. So for people who are interested in that, I definitely recommend going and listening to Brad's future YouTube content that he's been putting out, explaining some of this stuff, because I was skeptical. You know, it's one of those things where like, it's never happened. I'm not sure if it's going to happen. And, you know, he can break down the terminology and how you approaching some of these businesses, because more so than ever now, I feel like people are getting more and more skeptical about it.
Yeah.
Big business are getting
totally.
skeptical.
Like, we never go at it, just like up front, we never go at it from a point of, we'll post an Instagram post for you in return for stay, because never works. I'm sorry. Hotels might do it. If you have a massive following, like 1 million plus and great engagement, it might work, but otherwise it'll never work. So we never go at it that way. Yeah. And by the way, we made a piece of content in New York that was able to get us these brand deals for the next trip, which was Bali. So that we made it one piece of content in New York that got us sponsorships for that Bali trip. One piece of content.
Huge. What places should you not miss? Not the typical tourist sites. So speaking on Bali, things that I would definitely
Fat turtle.
Yeah, every restaurant ever that was there. Seriously, the food was so good, man. It was so good. Seeing Kinkling Beach, it's known as T-Rex Bay. If you looked it up on Instagram or Google, that was huge because it was just a gigantic site. But it does come with tourists, as Rodney would say. You know, it's just 50%. So you have to suck it up and get, unless you go at a certain time where it's not as crowded. But I think that was probably one of the biggest. That and the Rice Terrace. Like, the Rice Terrace was cool. King Kling was a whole lot cooler. But those are kind of must-sees if you are like traveling Bali, I think. Other than that, I think it's the experiences and the people, and kind of just going out and doing your own thing and making your own experiences. But
get uncomfortable.
Yeah. So like those days where we hiked and saw stuff, they're exhausting, but they were well worth it. But yeah, I honestly think just like those big touristy sites, Seminyak was amazing. Again, like if you can just kind of wander around Seminyak all day and realize that there's so much to do. If you like nightlife, they have a lot of nightlife there. We went out one or two times, and it's a blast. Literally people from all over the world. So not just like typical tourism stuff, but just people who are literally, whether that be Australians, more Americans, Asians, literally everybody in a central location. And then just, you know, if it's a party, it's a party. It's a great time. So yeah, just those two big monument places, and then just carving your own path, I think what I would recommend. Best drone for the buck for aerial photography is my last one. I don't have a drone, but like Brad has a Mavic 2, the Mavic Pro 2, and it's like, it's incredible.
I had the first one, Mavic Pro, didn't have all the bells and whistles. Sensors, all right. the Mavic 2 I upgraded, which, I mean, the Mavic Pro, the original one is totally worth it because I think it's under $1,000 now, which is a heck of a deal for a drone.
Yeah.
But the Mavic Pro 2 has all the bells and whistles, so like all the automatic flight modes, which are super handy if you're flying in places that require the active track or you're moving or something like that. They're awesome. And the sensor's incredible too.
Sorry, I was mistaken. There was other ones that like I got DMs before I got some of these like Q&A questions, but so there's somebody asked me how we afford the awesome trips, and I'll just say like wait until watch Brad's episode on that. And then there was another one about just cameras and focal lengths and stuff. I don't want to harp on this too much just because it's like beating a dead horse. So I shot on a 1DX, Canon 1DX. My favorite go-to lenses are 24 and 35. Then I had a 70 to 200. And that was what New York and Bali were shot on, and what the majority of my like most recent Instagram stuff shot on. But even before then, I started on a Panasonic GH4, GH5, but I recently sold the 1DX in all the Canon glass to invest in something smaller. So I sold literally all of it, all my Canon lenses, even the GH5, which was my second cam, to get a Sony a7 III. Just because I know that this is what I want to do, and I think this is why I don't want to they're all nice cameras. They're all just tools at the end of the day. You should be able to go out there with anything you have and do to a certain extent what you're able to do. So I want a Sony because of how discreet it is. It fits my personality because I don't like having a lot of tension on me. So when I'm filming something small, 1 or 2 lenses that are just, I'm realizing now that I like the versatility of a zoom over a prime. So a couple of zoom lenses fits more so how I like to film. And that's it. And the money left over, I plan on getting a drone as well because like I want one. I want to get better at that avenue. So it's not like necessarily what you use, man. It's literally how you use it and what fits you. I know that traveling is important to me, so therefore my back is not going to be broken because the 1DX is extremely heavy, and then I would have to carry a glide cam everywhere we went to do gimbal shots. So it's like I'm carrying around a gigantic axe of just nothing but money and weight everywhere we went.
That thing was heavy. When you're hiking down Kinkling Beach, I felt like I had like Thor's hammer or something. Dude. That thing was heavy.
It's just it's not ideal. Yeah. So something small, something discreet, like it's not what you shoot on, man. It's literally how what you envision and how creative you are with that. And I'm still learning that as well.
Yeah. Barrett, anything else?
I didn't put up a poll on Instagram, but when I came back, I had a lot of questions. Pretty similar to what these guys, the people I asked Brad and Miguel. One, how you afforded it. That's going to be covered more on Brad's because there's a lot that goes into that time, content stuff. So that's going to be discussed more, I think, in a couple months.
Yeah, I'll drop it. Like I'm still working on it, still filming it, and trying to write some more ideas and just open it up to you because I want to make it great. Like I don't want to just put something half-assed out there. I want to really create something that I'm actually doing. Like I want to show you actual contracts, actual emails. So I'm trying to get approval of those from some of the companies that I can share, and really like show you what I'm actually doing, not an example of what I'm doing.
Right. So that's going to be super, super informative and going to help just travel basically how we did it for, at a reasonable price. But some other questions was just like, how are the people, the food? So kind of backing off the people, I think there was one story when we're hiking Kinkling Beach, go down the T-Rex. It's like an hour down, hour up, something like that. When we're coming up, we like stumbled across this lady who's like petrified, like holding on for dear life because it's pretty steep. Like I never realized how steep it was until I got there. And so I always bring up this story because it's just what we want to do as well is we want to help when we go to these places. We want to kind of just immerse ourselves in a culture and help along the way in anything we can. We don't want to just impose and kind of go and just shoot all this and do all this. Like we want to actually help and make a difference too. And so we had the opportunity. This lady kind of was holding on for dear life. And we're climbing up. We were asking if she's okay. And long story short, like she said, she couldn't see. She was dehydrated, and like her husband and her son were already at the bottom. So this was probably about a quarter of the way up. And I was like, all right, she won't be able to get down and get back up. And so Brad and I, Jenny and Miguel went up first to see if they could get like someone with water, because at that point we didn't have much water, but we gave her some water. But long story short, we like helped this Indonesian lady up, Kinkling Beach, and it was just a cool experience because she was so thankful. And it was just like a time in which we could like give back. It was an opportunity that we could help someone, and we all have a desire to help. And so little things like that, taking advantage, nothing special, we're not heroes, but just to be able to help local people, and to also be informative if, you know, it's not an easy hike. So if you have any doubts, you can, the best views honestly at the top. To experience like the beach is amazing, but yeah, so it's just like some of those things people would ask, like, besides what you did, did you like, was there anything else that you were able to do to offer? And that was just a little story of, yeah, just a time in which we got to give back and just help out. It kind of presented itself in front of us, and yeah.
Yeah, and that's something we want to be better at. Is we were trying to experience this trip, but going forward, we definitely want to find a way to be less self-driven and more. How can we help others on these trips? Which is like, you know, if we're traveling these places and our focus is creating content for our channels, it is pretty self-driven, but there are ways that you can give back, you know, just don't get overwhelmed. Anyways, what was that, over an hour? That was like an hour and a half. Yeah. That was solid. Guys, let us know what you thought of this in the comments below. Seriously, we want your feedback because, like, again, we're creating this content for you all, so we need your feedback. Just show us a little bit of support. Hit that thumbs up button. Comment down below what you liked, what you didn't like. If you want us to talk about something else, or shoot us up in the DMs. If you have any more questions, we'd be happy to answer them. We're going to be posting one of these after every big trip, and they're only going to get better from here. But anyways, guys, smash this thumbs up button. Hit subscribe. And we'll see you after Europe. Let's go, baby. Peace.